So we're going to jump right into it today, and I'm not going to go through the whole build process of this jig. It's really not complicated. It's 2 pieces of plywood that were sandwiched together. I cut one piece out the same height as my fence, and the other one is about 4.5 inches deep, and I just glued and screwed them together in an L shape. Then I made these 2 pieces for the top of the fence with grooves down them, so I can position that L shape at basically any angle I want to the blade. Now I did a video similar to this, it's got to be about 1.5 years ago, maybe a little longer, but it was set up differently so you can set panels up on the end and create raised panels with the table saw. So today this is a little different. Now this jig I would use to do grooves in material, but the way I have this set up is so you can actually use an auxiliary piece behind it that rides along that little lower shelf there on the jig, so you can do some stabilizing of the piece that you're cutting. Now basically we're just cutting grooves into material by angling the fence to the table saw blade, and I know some of you have probably most likely seen something like this before. Now here's the thing, when you have a setup like this where you can add auxiliary guides to the fence, you can do some pretty interesting things. Like in this case, I've offset it at about a 20-degree angle, and I'm going to create these grooves that go at an angle across the front. Now, this is something I've done before plenty of times with drawer fronts. I've also used this as a decorative element on making boxes and that sort of thing. So in this case, I've just gone down and created these grooves in, and there's about a 2-inch difference between each one, or 2 inches between each of the grooves. And sanding those out is pretty easy. Just take a piece of dowel, wrap it around, or wrap some sandpaper around a piece of dowel, and you can sand those out. And I've got a really good dado stack, and I'm just using one blade out of the dado stack. It's a Prestige dado stack, and that makes it so it's just so much easier to do the sanding. If you're using a typical saw blade, it's going to be a little bit more sanding to do. So now once I had that done, I'm going to show you guys something here that's I'm sure a lot of you haven't seen before. And this is one of the things I used to do to create really cool decorations and patterns in panels for the side of cabinets, and I've also used this for drawer fronts as well. What I do is I've actually set up a piece on my fence that I can attach the work piece to, or the piece of material I want to use, and I can pivot that along the blade. So I create not only the grooves, but I'm getting this tangential pattern in the grooves as well. And I'm just touching on this today. There's a lot more that you can do with a setup like this, where you can do patterns and crossing patterns, and you can even do things that look like real decorative seashell kind of things with this type of a setup. But I'm just going to show you the basics today. So I've set the saw blade up in different increments and then created these grooves in, and watch what happens. So I've just got all these interesting different directions of grooves. I didn't really shape or pattern this. Now you could definitely keep track of all the numbers so you can repeat this, and you can do some really cool things by changing directions and all kinds of other fun stuff. But I just wanted to give you guys the basic gist of it today on how you can use a table saw to create some really interesting details. So when it's all sprayed up, of course, everything looks better when it's got a finish on it. I just shot some lacquer on it so you could make it pop a little bit for you guys. Didn't get a real good shot of the walnut here, but it actually looks really cool as well. So there you go. There's a couple of real simple jigs that you can set up on your table saw to get some interesting patterns. And I've really just touched the tip of the iceberg here. There's so much that can be done with the table saw to get some patterns and interesting effects, and whether you're doing drawer fronts or panels, even in railing or even trim work. So there's really so much that the table saw can do, and we'll do more of that in the future. So don't forget to subscribe if this is your first time here. And also, I'm over on Instagram, so if you're over there, check me out. I'll put a link in the description box below. I post pictures over there daily of stuff that's happening in the shop as it's happening in the shop. Once again, thank you very much for watching. I really appreciate it, and we'll talk to you soon.